Welcome to the Highly Effective Man podcast, hosted by former Navy SEAL turned life and fitness coach. I'm your host, JP Bolwahnn. This podcast is your resource for unlocking the healthiest, most productive, and highly effective man within you. Let's go. All right, guys. Welcome back to the Highly Effective Man podcast. Today's guest is a friend of mine, Mark England. He's the creator of Enlifted Coaching. Mark is known for his work around how language we use both outside, out loud, and inside our heads shapes our identity, our habits, and ultimately the life we live. So for men listening to this show, this conversation matters because discipline, confidence, and leadership don't just come from the workouts that we do or the routines that we do. They start with the story that you're telling yourself, right? And Mark has worked with world-class athletes, entrepreneurs, coaches, high performers from around the world to help them clean up their internal dialogue and upgrade the language that drives their behavior. So Mark, welcome to the Highly Effective Man podcast.
JP, thanks for having me. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, awesome. I know it's been a while that we've been talking about doing this and we finally got our schedules lined up. But I think there's going to be a lot of value that you bring to the table. And I think that a lot of people don't know about like what you do. And I mean, I know a lot of people know about what you do, but I think there's so much value in your coaching and the things that you've done. I mean, just from my experiences, it was something that was very transforming for me. And the way I thought about, certain things in my life. So how did you originally become interested in the connection between language and performance?
At the intersection of need and interest. So need, I was in some great need of improving the story that I was telling myself about all kinds of things, also known as mindset, or our definition of mindset. There was a time in my life where I was, can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
I was fucking miserable. I was just a miserable, pathetic person because my identity, the first identity I really gravitated to, and it was a similar situation as far as good timing and then just a natural interest for it. I wrestled in high school and got into Brazilian jiu-jitsu in 1996. We had Paul Creighton as one of our. He was teaching a foundational phys ed class at the university that I was an undergrad at my first semester, and for whatever, he was my teacher for that. And the first day of class, and this guy went on. He's a 3rd degree black belt under Henzo now. He fought BJ Penn for the title, lightweight title, in, I think it was 2006 in the UFC. So anyway, this guy was good. He goes, "Are there any wrestlers in the room?" And I raised my hand and he goes, "Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday in the auditorium. You should come." I was like, "Cool, I'll come." And that was the first time I ever got choked out. And pinning someone, that's cool. I pin you, you pin. This was something very different. I was like, I see the practicality of this on impact. And so I got obsessed with it and started competing and won a couple of state kickboxing titles. And I was doing well on the local amateur MMA scene and moved to Thailand for a year. And I was going to live over there for a year, sharpen up them elbows and come back and go pro. And that's totally not what happened. I ended up living over there for 10 years, which still sounds weird to say.
Wow.
And yeah, dude, so wild, I remember, do you remember that song, One Night, I forget who sings it. One Night in Bangkok makes a hard man humble. You remember that?
No.
One night in Bangkok makes a hard man.
Oh, yeah.
That, dude, I remember listening to that as a kid and just thinking that must be the worst place in the world. It sounded like hell on earth from that song. And I still laugh about that. Anyway, I ended up living in Bangkok for 5 years. Moved over there and jacked my knee up and then jacked my knee up again and had a couple of knee surgeries and the whole thing was done. And darkness descended. And I just lit a dumpster fire of a victim mentality, man. I had all the evidence, not saying it was accurate. Mm-hmm. I just had all the proof of all the reasons that I was the people that did me wrong and the stuff, things, everything to blame, including my genetics and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think I laughed for an entire year. That's a rough one. That's a rough one when you can't muster a legit laugh, much less how about a smile to begin with. Anyway, and so one night I was at an emotional detoxification workshop down on the island of Thailand. Down on the island of Koh Samui in the Gulf of Thailand. Operation Koh Samui, if for the Ben Stiller movie, Meet the Fuckers, Meet the Parents, that place. And I found myself in a workshop that I would have never gone to if I wasn't trying to fix myself, man, because I got tired of being miserable. And there's a lot of comeback stories that start there or have that in some part of the origin story. You just get so tired of something being intolerable and then might figure out how to improve it. You definitely won't sitting on the couch watching CNN or Fox News. Yeah, so I watched this guy take this woman's very bad breakup story and judo chop it. He had her tell it 3 different times. He had her tell it, and then he got down and tell it again, and he got down to the one sentence that held the whole thing together, which was, "He did that to me." And he had her repeat that sentence 3 times in a row, and she was annoyed at the last time. He did that to me. Yes, this is factual. This is what happened. And then he goes, take out that last word and put in the word himself. And it was a very clunky delivery, and it went up at the end, which is up talk. He did that to himself, and then the breath unlocks. Because that's what happens when we start to dismantle the victim mentality, which I'll recite by definition here in a pinch. He did do that to himself. And then she went on to talk about how he lost a bunch of friends and it was never going to work out anyway. And he was actually really weird. But because the way she was wording the story that she was telling herself about the thing for 4 years, and it could have been 44 years. If the words stay the same, then the story stays the same. And if the story stays the same, then the perspective stays the same. So one of the things we've made, we're very much under the radar. And for the people that know about us, and especially our coaches and the people that they work with that use our tech, people appreciate what we do because we make shit super simple. That's one of our calling cards, is how basic of a conversation can we have about mindset? Because oddly enough, or not so oddly enough, there's not many people in that space talking about mindset in the most simple elementary school PE teacher way. And that's we've made a business and a brand off of that. Yeah. And so I was like, that was cool as shit. What he did with that sentence, with that one word, took that one out, plucked that one in, and the whole thing just changed. And I was like, well, I've got some "he did that to me" stories. And that was in 2003. And I was an elementary school PE teacher in Bangkok for the first 5 years in Thailand. And then, great gig. I've only had 2 quote unquote real jobs, or professional jobs, serious jobs, however you want to say it. So that, and then this work, which I've been doing for the past 19 years. And then, yeah, so I raked some leaves in between college shifts and cut some grass. I delivered pizza for Little Caesars. But
Pizza.
Dude, that cornbread, it used to be really good. I wouldn't trust that, because there's been some glycophosphates in there. There's going to be some glycophosphates in there now, but it was really good back then. Thanks, Monsanto. Anyway, yeah, and so it's just like jujitsu. This thing, for whatever reason, and interest isn't a choice, attraction's not a choice. We're interested in what we're interested in. We're attracted to what we're attracted to. I do see it as a gift. And yeah, this thing has held my attention since that day. It's just something about it. The work is it's fascinating, and a lot of other adjectives too, but we'll go with that. So that's the story.
No, yeah, I agree with you, man. I think before I met you, I did a life coaching school, and it was like online based, and it was, a lot of it was, okay, you have these facts, these circumstances, and then it's your thoughts around those circumstances that determine your feelings, which will then determine your actions, which then eventually determine your results. Right. And if you want different results, well, you got to have different actions. You got to have different feelings. You got to have different thoughts. And the facts will stay the same no matter what they are. Right. But what I really found interesting after I met you and actually, taking your level 1, was that how it just takes it that's one step further, because our thoughts are formed by the words that we use, right? And if we can look at those thoughts, by journaling or whatever, and then changing those words, even though it's still the same thought in a way, but you're changing the word, which then creates a totally different outcome or feeling, right? And I thought, for me, that was like, wow, this is like really powerful. And like you said, like I haven't heard, I don't know if I've heard you say that, but it's simple and repeatable. And I think it's a good way to transform a person's mindset, or maybe thoughts around a certain time in their life or something that's going on. And so I think it's really awesome what you're doing.
Thanks, buddy. And really, it's the only way thought has ever been changed is by using different words. There's a lot of ways to describe it. Oh, I changed my mind. You mean you're using different words.
Mm-hmm.
I see things differently now. You mean you're using different words. I've had a cognitive shift. You mean you're using different words. That was quite the reframe. You're using different words. That's what that is. And we relentlessly and repeatedly go for the lowest common denominator in the room when it comes to mindset, which is the words that we're using. Here's a fun exercise, everybody. It's relevant. Go out there and grab one of your friends who's, and this is the words that they use, really big on mindset, and go, hey, what's mindset? What is it? And get some popcorn and get some popcorn. No, for reals. And
Yeah.
and you're probably going to get crickets or some long-winded, big picture explanation of stuff with a lot of philosophy and potentially a side order of neuroscience. We could think that something that's talked about as much as mindset would have a standardized definition. And trust me, it doesn't. I might hold the world's record for the most amount of definitions of mindset read in a single sitting. I drank a cup of coffee about a year ago and sat down and read 143 different definitions of mindset. And some of them are, we can have a conversation about that. That's a good working definition, all the way to complicated as hell by design, in my opinion. Because if you want to, some people could call me accurately a conspiracy theorist, a long time person in those conversations. If you want to, and you don't even have to be just look at it. If you want to control, look at how the presidential speeches are worded, or look at how the news outlets word things. If you want to control people, groups, individuals, nation states, make shit complicated. First things first, make things complicated, which will confuse them. And once they're confused, they're easy to control. So it's complicate, confuse, control. I've got it out in the, I didn't have all my thinking caps on. I'll walk out there and get it in a second while we're on this call. I've got a copy of the World War II OSS field book for sabotage, for guerrilla warfare sabotage behind enemy lines in World War II. And the main thing is just make everything complicated. Down from town hall meetings to you name it. And it's called the simple handbook. So it's simple. You want to wreck something, make it complicated. That's the simple short version of it. And I've also got a copy of the DSM-5 out there, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the American Psychiatric Association. You wouldn't want that thing falling out of hitting you on your head, which is super complicated. And it starts with a super complicated definition. And then you start looking at this, you're like, wait a minute. How about we have a simple working definition of mindset? And I'm not here to win. I'm here to participate. And in my personal and professional opinion, the enlisted definition of mindset is it's the best because it's the most simple. Mindset is the story that you tell yourself. That's it. Your client's mindset is the story that they tell themselves. And it depends, whatever you're coaching someone on. Let's say you're a finance coach. Your client's financial mindset's the story they're telling themselves about their money. How about dads? It's the story they're telling themselves about their being a father, and then it just branches out from there. They trust me. Dads have stories about their spouses, and most of those stories are kept in the head. And stories that are kept, that's where 99.99% of the people keep the scary stories. Yeah. And there's a big difference between stories kept in the head, everybody, and stories that are written down. So we are very big on getting the words out and staring at them and then playing with them. So there's similarities and there's also differences with general journaling. Generalized journaling is a general writing about something. Okay. Anyway, Alan Watts would approve. So Alan Watts is the greatest Zen teacher that the West has ever had and will ever have, in my opinion. And he said, when we learn to think about our thinking, we become alive in a new way. And most people are not thinking about their thinking. They're just thinking. There's a difference. Most people are not staring at the words that they're using or observing the words that they're using. They're being run over by them, hijacked by them. And this is a real statistic. It's 1,000,000 trillion times easier to think about your thinking or observe the words you're using once they're on paper versus in your head.
True.
So there's three forms of story, three speeds of storytelling. Stories in the head go the fastest. Stories that are spoken, that's the middle speed. And then stories that are written down, that's the slowest form of storytelling that we have. And because it's slower, you get more detail. And the devil is in the details. And so that's a good thing. So people start writing about something and they get more words out in a more structured, organized way. I'll rant on this for another 90 seconds and I'll give it back to you. So stories kept in the head, they swirl. They go really fast. They're seemingly infinite. They're extremely disorganized compared to once they're written down. It's very hard to digest. Psychological and emotional indigestion is a real thing. So stories kept in the head. The story is in the person is in the story in some weird metaphysical way I don't understand, nor do I need to. Stories written down, now it's externalized. Now it's finite, as in there's the first word, there's the last word, and then there's all the words in between. It's not moving. Story in the head moves. And then especially if you're working with someone, both you and the person you're working with can look at the same set of words. It's profoundly clarifying. When it comes to helping people change the story that they're telling themselves, and that story is made of words and breath. Now we're into the breath conversation. Good luck separating those two things. It ain't happening.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
No, I think it's true. When you talk about the words, I think that those were two of the biggest things that you need. And like you just mentioned, breath. I talk a lot about breath as well because it's amazing how just one big, low and slow, deep breath can change everything on how you are talking, the way you're feeling, and the way you think, right? And so with the words and the breath, I mean, you've got something very powerful that I think most people or a lot of people do not take advantage of, right? Because they don't know.
Which brings up, I agree with you 1,000%. Which also brings up another interesting point. Why don't we know about this? Why? Because it's not rocket science by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
It's simply an education issue. It's not an intelligence issue. It's not a deservance issue. It's an education issue. And I've never met one person. I've got a master's degree in education. I got brought up in the public school system, so I know about it on both sides of the fence, and I can take a shit on it. I've never met, and I've asked, I've never met one person that said they had a course class, even a conversation in high school English class about how to use their words to stay focused on what's important and keep the drama low and build themselves up in their imagination and create feelings of confidence and competence. And while you're at it, unlock your breath, because that happens when the victim mentality gets dismantled. I've never met anyone that has said, I've had a cool class on that.
Yeah, because
it's all about past participles and what did Christopher Columbus do? Right. It's like, what? Or, other stuff that I don't, dude, I'll never need to know what a past participle is.
Yeah.
The chances of me needing to know.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm thinking like, what's a past participle?
Dude,
it's like, why do I need?
Yeah. When did that come up in a conversation? When did that come up, like when you're asking a girl out? When did that come up when, your dad dies? When does that come up when you're thinking about buying a trailer? It's like, no. But people are lighting their heads on fire with the words they're using, the stories they're creating, and they don't know how to put them out. My life is out of control. So mechanically speaking, when someone says my life is out of control, I know what they're saying. They're saying that the scary stories are in my head. They're going really fast on repeat, and my breath is trapped in my chest. When someone creates that scenario through lack of education, lack of knowledge, that's how they describe it. That's how they describe it.
Yeah. Well, you've talked about words and soft talk, right?
Mm.
What are some of the most common phrases people say that are actually hurting them?
Very good question. How about we back into that with the verbatim definition of the victim mentality?
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
So most people have never heard the definition of the victim mentality, everybody, much less written it down. And there's this thing called the learning pyramid, 30, 50, 80. We remember 30% of what we hear, 50% of what we write, and 80% of what we turn around, teach, share, or explain. So I'm going to recite the definition of the victim mentality twice. I challenge you, invite you, dare you to get a pen and a piece of paper and write it down. Because once you just get more out of it. And this is something, this is how most people get into working on themselves, through some of the effects of the victim mentality. Feeling like you're not good enough. Got some problems with the wifey. Stuck in this one area of your life. You don't know why. Feelings of existential dread. All the physical markers that come along with chronic upregulation, redlining, breath trapped in your chest, sympathetic nervous system response. Because there ain't nothing more stressful, generally speaking, and chronically speaking, than the victim mentality. So anyway, here's the definition twice. I'll do it slow the first time, and then I'll speed it up the second time and add some polish to it. And then I'll give some examples of the words that the victim mentality depends on. So here it is, everybody. Pen to paper if you want to. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. That's slow. Here it is fast. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends, it's a tendency, everybody. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. A person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The second sentence, right between the eyes, right where it belongs. The victim mentality depends, circle that word, on a habitual, underline that word, thought process and attributions. So the victim mentality depends, as in it has to have a habitual, which accurately implies duration and addiction. Thought process. What's a thought process? Glad you asked. It's how you put your words together. That's what that is. We all got one. And then attributions. What's an attribution? It's a characteristic. And after the words that the victim mentality has to have in there in order to be created, the characteristic that we pay attention to most after that, it's really only two we pay attention to and lift it, is the breathing. It's the breathing. And push comes to shove, it's about the breath. Push comes to shove, it's about the breath. We're known as the language people. That's cool. And I'm there to help people unlock their breath, because the words are words, and not just our words. That's what traps the breath in the first place. You know, we inherit our parents' breathing mechanics, our breathing patterns, and we also gift it to our children. And talk more about that. But yeah, most people have never heard the verbatim definition of the victim mentality. I've shared it with a lot of people over the years. I've been teaching with it verbatim since 2013. And a lot of time, light bulbs go off, man. Like, oh, that makes sense. And then when you give them that verbatim definition and then go right into the just basic word, hey, what words? What thought process? Words. What words have to be in there? And we'll start with negations. So there's 4 components of conflict language. And you've taken core language upgrade, JP. Yeah, we reshot that. So we produced that in 2015, and it really landed when we went on Barbell Shrugged. It's an online course, everybody. We retired the brand, same coaching tech. A vocabulary. It's a cool name, core language upgrade. And yeah, when Barbell Shrugged dropped in spring 2017, and dude, we were on fumes for years. We sold a lot of those courses. Anyway, there's 4 components to conflict language, and we had to reshoot core language upgrade because we initially called it victim mentality language. And we're like, that's a little too strong of a place to start the conversation. So anyway, there's 4 pillars of conflict language: negations, projections, dramatics, and soft talk. And the main 3 to look at are negations, projections, soft talk. What's a negation? Negation it's how people worry. So, why do I worry so much about stuff? Okay. It's a question. And it'll get, in my opinion, very likely a mediocre answer based on what you get from answering that question.
Right.
Versus, how do I worry about stuff so much? Why do I worry? Versus, how do I worry? I want to know how I'm doing it. And the how is with this small set of words: can'ts, won'ts, isn't, not, don't, shouldn't, haven't, hasn't. I said some of those. There's not many of them. And so what it does is it forces people to stare at the scary shit.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother had a 3rd-degree black belt in worrying. And, oh, I don't want anything bad to happen to you and your sister in Richmond. You ever hear the don't? So what does that do? It forces her to stare at what she doesn't want to have happen to us in Richmond, versus saying, and it takes some more elbow grease. You got to think about it. Okay, well, how do you want me to live my life in Richmond? Tell me what you do want to have happen. And I never had those conversations with her because I wasn't into this work back then. But I can't keep focusing on my past. There's a picture of me focusing on my past. I'm not gonna go in the house and immediately start arguing with my wife. And when you slow the whole thing down, and you look at it, you're like, wait a minute. So it forces you to stare at you walking into the house and arguing with your wife.
Right.
Right. I don't want to get drunk and ruin the Thanksgiving dinner like I did last year. And so there's I just make a picture of me, what I did last year. Whoops, don't want to do that again. But whoops, there's another picture of it. And it's these micro stress. My driving teacher said, he said, look where you want to go because you're probably going to go there. So there's that. There's projections. So that takes a little bit of, and I'll tell you all where to start. And there's projections. That's where most of the venom is. Those are the ones that people have the most attachment to, because those are the ones, generally speaking, it's almost exclusively speaking, those are the ones that create the strongest stress response in people. And the key words are you, they, she, he, people's first names, mom and dad, the government. She won't let me live my life. So there's a picture. So she won't let me. She and me. So that tells me there's going to be two people in the picture, minimum. And she's doing something to me and getting in my way. And it creates the victim-villain dynamic. My husband never cleans up around the house. Okay. And that's got a dramatic in there. It's a never. My husband always interrupts me. Okay. Okay. So husband and me. There's going to be in that picture, in that little movie, there's going to be the husband and there's going to be the wife, and the husband's interrupting her again. And a lot of times people create very distorted, skewed stories about what's going on, piss themselves off, and then drag other people into it. You know, my dad always talks to me like a child. Dad talking to me like a child, even though I'm a grown-ass man. And she needs to stop wasting my time. You know, versus I need to stop wasting my time. Come on, everybody. This is the boys here. Who wastes more of our time than us? There's not even a close second.
Right.
I need you to respect me versus I need me to respect me. Ooh. Dad always talks to me like a child. No, I always talk to me like a child. It is a stiff drink. It's 180 proof at the bar.
Yeah, right in your face.
Right in your face. Okay, yeah. So here's a story. Projections with a projection in it. This woman came in. This was years ago, and I still tell the story because it's such a good example. And sometimes it plucks people right in the nose, especially if I have them write the sentence or if I suggest them to write the sentence down. So this woman comes in, sits down, and she was very self-aware. She goes, I've had the same relationship with 5 different men, and I'm pretty sure it's coming from my childhood. And I go, cool. Tell me about this pattern with the men. She did. And it brought up this energy. You've seen me do this. This ain't rocket science either. This lump in her chest. And I asked her, when was the first time you ever felt that lump in your chest? She went straight to it. When they sat her down at the kitchen table when she was 9 and told her and her little brother that they're getting a divorce. People remember that moment in time if they experience it, and for whatever reason, half the time it's in the kitchen, sitting down. And yeah, her dad had an affair and he left. She didn't see him for a couple of years, and mom talked hella shit about him to her. And, you know, these are not uncommon stories, you know. And so we got back to that specific event. Guess where that story had been since it happened? In her head. And so when I said journaling, let me circle back to that because it's important. If people journal about something, most of the time it's a general description of what happened and they leave the words there. And half the time it's a net negative. It's like, see, here's the proof. Look at what happened to me right then. Or, see, I got it in writing. Good. I'm glad that it's out of your head. And that's just the first step. because you can do so much with the words once they're written down. It's so much easier than trying to navigate stories in the head. Anyway, and we got that story titled and written down. So we titled the story of Kitchen Talk, and she wrote out what happened. That's very different than writing about her childhood in a general way. And there was a couple other specific memories. She saw her family, her mom and dad get physical with each other a couple of times. Kids remember those things too. And we titled those and wrote them out. And we went in and four-stepped them, which means essentially it means we air the thing out. Anyway, I believe the sentence, the spell, the Lord of the Rings spell that held the whole thing together, which was it definitely didn't put men in a good light, because he wasn't put in a good light based on, well, words. And the sentence was, if my father had loved us more, everything would have been different. And that was a sentence in one of the stories. And if you do enough of this work, everybody, some of the sentences, the spells, when I say spell, I'm by definition, so Webster's definition of a spell is a word or a combination of words of great influence. And the big one for this one was, if my father had loved us more, everything would have been different. I had to repeat it a couple of times. And then I said, take out the word us and put in the word himself. Man, that snapped her head right back. And then came the tears. Because those words, if my father had loved us more, everything would have been different, forced her, whether she was sick and tired of it or not. And she was sick and tired of it, but who cares? 2 + 2 = 4. That's how this works. I don't care how tired somebody is of being sick and tired. If they're using their words in a certain way, you're getting what you get. And it was forcing her to take everything personal, to make everything about her parents' massively dysfunctional thing a reflection on how valuable she was of a person. And so the sentence goes to, if my father had loved himself more, everything would have been different. And it took her a little while to get all them tears out, which is good. And then we did one other, took out the word everything. So if my father had loved himself more, everything would have been different. Take out everything, and put in the word he. If my father had loved himself more, he would have been different. And it's just the space, the clarity, the breath unlocks, descends. Yeah. And that's what we're here to help people do, is create space and clarity, not have answers. I don't have any answers for anybody. Wouldn't want to. Okay. No motivational quotes off Instagram, regardless of how fire they are. I'm not going to motivate anybody. No. I want the words. Let's go get them stories out your head and stare at the words and get the breath in there and start playing with them and see what happens. Because that's a very reliable way to work on your mindset, which is the story that you're telling yourself. You got to get down to the word level, everybody. I love neuroscience, and most of it's over my head. It's cool. I know there's a lot of shit going on in there. And I'm going to relentlessly stare at my words and make sure I'm using them in a way to keep things level.
Yeah, that's a powerful story. I mean, you can see and almost just feel the transformation that happened like in that moment.
I'll do workshops from time to time, and depending on the direction that I'm taking them, I'll have everybody write that down. And let's say there's 30 people in the workshop, 4 or 5 people are going to be crying because it relates directly to their dad's story, or just makes sense about something else. Makes sense about some other kind of story. Because we're all telling ourselves a story. We're all using the same squiggles and sounds. That's what English is. It's a bunch of squiggles and it's a bunch of sounds that we agree upon. And everyone has gotten in their own way. Everyone has created villain stories in their head. Everyone has catastrophized, which is a fancy word for worrying, and also second guessed themselves and created indecision, which brings us into soft talk, which is where the internet will hold. I'm going to walk out there and get the soft talk keyword plaque. Soft talk is where you want to start everybody working on the words that you use. So JP, what does pro for you? I'm sure you've done it. We all have. What does a prolonged bout of indecision feel like?
It's terrible.
Fucking horrible.
Yeah, nothing's happening, and so until you make a decision, it's you're in purgatory. Like nothing's going on.
It is such a unique flavor of stress.
Yeah.
And I don't know anyone that can't relate. Translation, everyone I've ever met can relate. So the question is, how are people doing that? Not why. Why am I so indecisive? I don't care why you're so indecisive, because I know how you're so indecisive. And the how is with these words right here. Soft talk. Rocket science, everybody. So this is another cool thing that you can do. And if you're on the gram, I suggest you take a picture of this, tag us, I'll repost it. It's called the Soft Talk Challenge. Get a clean sheet of paper. I'm about to rattle off, or I'll hold it up and JP can read them. We're about to share with you the soft talk keywords. Get a clean sheet of paper and write these words out in all caps 5 times larger than you normally write, and then put it up somewhere where you're going to see it for a month. Fridge works great. Bathroom mirror works great. Workstation works great. So read these for your audience, please.
So we're starting with probably, perhaps, feels like, guess, maybe, could, might, possibly, sort of, kind of, potentially, hopefully, try, one day, should, almost like.
Perhaps I'm ingesting too much caffeine. Maybe I should spend more time with my wife. It's almost like I'm overthinking things. You.
Oh.
It's not actually true. I'm so glad that I've got a dark sense of humor. It just helps. It just helps so much. And if you stare at this long enough, it makes a lot of things make sense, including the dark side. So anyway, what do you do? So what happens? And this is very experiential and it's very free. And anyone can do it. Everything starts with awareness. You raise your awareness about these words, and it's the gateway drug to the rest of the words. You got to start somewhere. This is where you start. Why? Because all you do is pluck them out. Mm-hmm. Negations, affirmations, you got to think about, oh, wait a minute. And then there's the whole attachment thing to the projections. So let's just go with what most people can improve upon and easy. So, maybe we should schedule a meeting. Take out the maybe. We should schedule a meeting. Oh yeah, it should. We're scheduling a meeting on Monday at 12 or 2. Which one works best for you? Maybe I need to spend some more time with my wife. Take out the maybe. I need to spend some more time with my wife. Okay, well, what would that look like? Well, she loves going to the beach. How about this Sunday? And so you make decisions way easier because you create space and clarity by getting these words out of your it's almost like I'm overthinking getting back into jujitsu. Take out the almost like. I'm overthinking getting back into jujitsu. Yes, I am doing that. And now that you have gotten clarity on the fact that you are doing that, then you can go in direction A or direction B. Otherwise, like you said, you're in purgatory. You're in limbo. And that shit sucks. And so that everybody is one of the very best ways. I'm going to take out it's the best way that I know for people to start working on their mindset at a word level.
Yeah.
I got some other stuff to share. Simple sabotage field manual from the OSS. It would drop these behind enemy lines. You want me to read you out some definitions of mindset?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So I did this in the last workshop that I was at. People enjoyed it. If you want to work on something, you need to know what it is and what it's made of. So here's 6 definitions of mindset, ranging from, okay, to what? This is from dictionary.com. The established set of attitudes held by someone. This is from Cambridge, the Cambridge Dictionary. A person's way of thinking and their opinions. This is from verywell.com. Mindset is a set of beliefs that shape how you make sense of the world and yourself. This is from writingcommons.org. Mindset refers to a person or community's way of feeling, thinking, and acting about a topic. Let's lump my entire community into the definition of mindset.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that one's kind of out there.
Yeah. And then I'm going to work on the community's mindset.
Right.
Yeah, have fun. This is from Wikipedia. A mindset, also known as mentality, especially when considered as biased and closed-minded, refers to an established set of attitudes of a person or group concerning culture, values, philosophy, frame of reference, outlook, or disposition. How are we going to work on that, boys?
Right.
And this one, from the American Psychological Association, which is very close to the American Psychiatric Association, who these guys right here, which wrote the DSM-5, like I said earlier, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. You know how much crazy shit is in here that can be remedied with better words and better breathing and going on some walks, better food, some kettlebells, hanging out with the boys, going surfing, taking the kids on a hike. Like, it's, dude, I'll read something. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get, because if something starts, here I go again. If something starts complicated, it's going to continue complicated. And this everybody is complicated as hell. How many pages are in here? It's 1,000. It's over 1,000. It's small print. This is a heavy ass book. And here's the American Psychological Association definition of mindset. A state of mind that influences how people think about and then enact their goal-directed activities in ways that may systematically promote or interfere with optimal functioning. That's retarded.
Yeah.
By definition, I know what the definition of retard is. It's to impede the development of, like a flame retardant. I like poking the bear, so I'll drop retarded and use it accurately. And people, and you just sound retarded. And then I'm like, do you know the definition? Because I know the definition. And so when things are complicated like that, it retards, it impedes the development of the story someone is telling themselves. And then, well, you've got a book that you can just thumb through. And we'll go to page 222. We'll read about under anxiety disorders. I highly recommend it's a $200 book and Shits and Giggles. Pick up one of these. Go to your library and just thumb through it for an hour. If you're into personal development, it does frame it brings a lot of things to the surface. To separation anxiety disorder, diagnostic criteria. There's, and we'll just read this. Here we go. Selective mutism in children. Oh, you mean kids don't like to talk sometimes? Oh, there's a condition for it. I've got a label for it. It's called selective mutism. And now that I've identified that this is the problem, okay, here's or might be the problem. Here's some diagnostic criteria. I love doing this shit. Consistent failure to speak in specific social situations in which there is an expectation for speaking, despite speaking in other situations. That's A. B. Remember what I said? Confuse, complicate, confuse, control. That's A. Here's B. The disturbance interferes with educational or occupational achievement or with social communication. The duration of the disturbance is at least 1 month, not limited to the first month of school. So it's got to be at least a month. Otherwise, it's something else. D. The failure to, this is brutal. The failure to speak, the failure to speak, child, or you will be labeled. The failure to speak is not attributed to a lack of knowledge or comfort, or knowledge of or comfort with the spoken language required in the social situation. E. The disturbance is not better explained by a communication disorder, for instance, childhood onset fluency disorder, and does not occur exclusively when the course of autism spectrum disorder, schizophrenia, or another psychotic disorder.
Oh my God. I can just imagine like C page this for this disorder, C page this for this disorder. And it's like, yeah.
And then what happens? We all know what happens when that happens. So, I got an email today. I mean, that's one way of going about working with children. I got an email today from a woman I talked to about 3 months ago. She got on a call with me about level 1, level 2 certification. And she was going back and forth between getting certified and hiring one of our coaches to work with her adopted daughter. And this woman is, she does foster care and also mentor. That's some crazy shit. And then also mentors other families in foster care. And she said, I've been, and they were having a really tough time with this one girl, just very exquisitely abusive background. Anyway, she goes, yeah, we've been having her write down her lies. She's like 6 or 7, 8, something like that. We've been having her write down her lies, and then we just look at them. And it's helped.
Wow.
I agree. I agree. And there's a lot of ways to work with kids. I know you got a lot of stand-up people that listen to your podcast, your men's groups and things like that. And those men have children. The thing that we recommend work when it comes to working with kids and helping them improve the story that they're telling themselves is a wins journal. And it's best done from ages 5 to 12. And it's very simple. You get a notebook and on the middle of one page, one sentence per day, just one full sentence, something that they did right. Something that they did right. In a full sentence. Tie your shoes, get the A, make the hoops, talk to the person, whatever. And what that does is it trains them to identify things that they do well. Most people have a hard time taking a compliment from someone else. It's that on steroids when it's time to give ourselves acknowledgement for the things we do well. And most people are extremely stingy with themselves when it comes to giving themselves some well-deserved credit. I'm not talking about bragging. And what it does is it trains the child's reticular activating system, look that up, to more easily identify themselves as doing good, being successful, winning, all those things. And it will raise their psychological and emotional immune system to a lot of bullshit. Because a very reliable way to build up someone's mindset is, hey, let's go get the evidence that we are good enough. Because most people wake up and they feel like they're on trial in a case that they're not good enough. They got this crazed prosecuting attorney, and it's like, hey, remember this? Remember this? Remember when she said this? Remember when you fucked that up? You're like, hey, you said all that yesterday. And it's like, oh, but today's a new day. Let's do the whole trial over again, right? Let's do the whole thing over again. Why not? And so it's essentially you're going and hiring. I'm off on a little bit of a rant now. You're going and hiring a defending attorney, and they are gathering evidence and presenting evidence, the stories, because people keep the good stories in their head too. And so it can be admitting evidence. You admit it to yourself. Shit, I did do that. And those are very polar different experiences too. The stories that we keep in the head, the scary shit, it's way up close, super loud, very meaningful. Stories, all the good stuff kept in the head for whatever reason, I don't make the rules, is way over there. The volume's super low, not very meaningful at all. And so we can address both of those mechanical phenomenons by picking up that heavy ass pen and writing stuff down.
I like that. I think that's really cool, because I got two daughters myself, 5 and 8.
Perfect.
And this wins journal, and just correct me if I'm wrong, did you say that I'm writing this down or they're writing this down, or they're identifying?
Phenomenal. They're writing it down. And that's why we recommend 5. Because they can write at 5, right?
Yeah, they have like words, and you can help them like, hey, A, B, C, how do I spell this? That type of thing. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And what are your daughters' names?
Pearl and Zoe.
Super cool. So Pearl has her own notebook and Zoe has her own notebook, and it couldn't be any faster. It's just one sentence. Maybe it's right before dinner or right after breakfast. And in a matter of under 2 weeks, that will become ceremonial. They'll remind you, Dad, I haven't done my wins journal today. And dude, in a month, it's locked in.
Yeah.
And we get a ton of really cool feedback from people that implement that into the culture of their family. Yeah. And language is one of the biggest, if not biggest, substrates of culture. Peter Drucker said it. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Whether it's in business, he was a business guru, or in a family, or in a community.
Yeah. Now, I guess one more thing on that. So when I'm thinking about like my 5-year-old or 8-year-old, it's like, okay, how was school today? Good. Right? Like, okay, what's something good you did today? They're like, I don't know, How do you work them through that to kind of help identify?
One full sentence. Name something that you did well today. One full sentence. We're going to write it out that you're proud of today. And if it takes them 10 minutes, it could take them a little bit of time to get their head around it. Some days will be easier than others. And you're like, hey, we got plenty of time before dinner. 10 minutes. We can wait.
Yeah.
So it's with prompts and questions if necessary.
Nice. Now, so a lot of guys, their dads, their husbands, listen to this, and a lot of them, they feel like they're pulled in different directions, right? I got to worry about my fitness. I got to worry about the family. I got to worry about work. I need more discipline, with fitness, work, leadership. And, we've identified already that, okay, a lot of this comes from language, but how does somebody shift from going like, I need more discipline or I need to get in shape to I'm a man who trains every day?
That can depend. It will depend. Some people need to write down. Some people need to have goals. And what do you? Doesn't everybody have goals, Mark? No, they don't. Only 3% of the population have goals. Everybody else has dreams. And what I'm doing is referencing. There's a massive mile-wide difference between dreams and goals. If what you want to do is in your head, it's a dream. If it's not written down, it's not a goal. Translation, if it's written, only when it's written down, then you have a goal. And this is coming off of a 30-year study on Harvard, when a person puts pen to paper about something that they would like to do or are going to do or could do, the likelihood, and the wording does matter. And let's just get a rough draft, everybody. Most people don't even have a rough draft to hand in. Remember what happened when you did that in high school? I do. It becomes 10 times more likely. Okay, so that's one way that you can narrow your focus and increase the frequency of the things that you want to do. Because most people are already doing and or are being the things that they want to be. They're already doing it to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I got I mean, just it's a layup bullseye in the crosshair example of how our language can trick us into thinking that we're doing worse than we think we are. Sometimes it's a goal thing. Sometimes it's a, hey, relax, buddy. You're doing these things. How about we acknowledge the fact that you're doing these things? Yes, you could do more of those things. Yes, you could work out more. Yes, you could drop 2% more body fat. Yes, you could make $10,000 a month more. And let's get you relaxing. Most people are very uncomfortable with success. They're very uncomfortable with failure. And you live in that strange time, twilight zone. It's another way of most people are simultaneously desperate for recognition and at the same time being afraid of being seen. Socophobia, that's what that is. It's a fancy word for the fear of being seen. And that's a strange place. So it's like, wait a minute. How can both of those things be going on at the same time? Stories. Sometimes you got to go clean up some backstory shit like that woman did about the story about her dad. That could be the issue. Okay. So it really is an individual. It's, as far as the people's mindset is concerned, it's an individual conversation. And I have seen, let's have some fun, everybody. Everybody pick up your pen. I've seen grown ass men reduce themselves to tears so frequently. And I was like, what's going on with this one sentence? I just want to be a good dad. You ever heard the guys that you work with say that?
Oh yeah.
Fucks them up, doesn't it?
I mean, it's every dad wants to be a good dad, right?
And yes, I agree. And why does that sentence wreck people? Why does it get people? Why does it make men feel like shit? Because it usually does.
Yeah.
Technically, it's a faux positive in the Enlifted vernacular. A faux positive, not a faux pas. It's you think it's positive, but it's fake. It's a fake positive. And here's why. Okay, so everybody write that down. Let's play a language game. I just want to be a good dad. And you will absolutely hear this one with the guys that you work with. And next time you're running a men's group, men's retreat, men's virtual, whatever, run this language game with them and watch what happens. And then you have them repeat it. I just want to be a good dad. How does that make you feel? Most people are going to be like, oh, I just, so much pressure. Cool, great. Scratch out the word just.
Mm-hmm.
And you know this game, JP. You see these, You see the words. And then so
I love it.
Yeah, what happens when you take out the word just, JP?
I want to be a good dad. That changes the way it feels.
Just, known as pressure language or dramatics. I just need to make the sale. Well, you're going to be sounding desperate as hell and probably not because of that. Regardless of how awesome the thing is you have to sell and how much the person wants it, get all weird because you're putting extra pressure on yourself. Just is I highly suggest staring at that word too. Just. And then here's the thing. Good's a tough one. Good is a tough one because it's massively an opinion. It's really hard to get on the calendar. How do you get good on the calendar? And it presupposes I want to be a good dad. It presupposes that I'm not a good dad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the reticular activating system, which is the lens that you see yourself and the world through, it's programmed by our language. It edits out all the good things that you're doing and is going to make you focus on the things that you're not doing or could do even better. And so that's where that feels like shit comes from, because he never cleans up around the house. The guy could clean up around the house 72% of the time. And if someone says he never cleans up around the house, it's going to edit out all the times that he does and forces you to focus on the times that he doesn't. And there, you got Armageddon again in your head. So there's a lot of ways to work with that sentence, and one that usually does the trick quite quick. Take out good and put in fun. I want to be a fun dad. Well, what do fun dads do? It's a lot easier to get fun on the calendar than it is good. Well, what's fun? What could we do that's fun in 2 weeks, 2 weekends? Well, we could rent that cabin over on the beach in Molokai and invite the family friends. Let's see if they'll get the cabin next to it, but that's okay. We're going regardless. And then you're like, yeah, cool. I know we have that weekend available. So you get on your Airbnb and and then you send the message, dude, I've done this. I've done this in workshops more times than I can count. And the thing is booked and they send the message, hey, honey, tell the kids that we're going to Molokai in 2 weekends and we'll be leaving at noon on Friday. We're actually going to get them out of school a little bit earlier. Something like that. And everybody just goes through the roof. And that's fun. And what I've noticed, I'm turning 50 this summer. I've noticed that it's real more rocket science. The parents that are fun and they have fun with their kids, those are the kids that enjoy being adults with them. That's like it. If you want to have good, fun relationships with your kids when they grow up, focus on fun. Focus on doing fun stuff. I did this with my nieces. Be the fun uncle. I was like, I'm going to be the fun uncle and I'm going to teach them kickboxing. And I did those two things. We would go to arcades and get pizzas, and I would go up there and get hotel rooms and watch the UFCs with them, and we would just go do fun stuff. And it's a better word to use than good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so that's part of my answer for how do people get, how do men get, they want to work out more, they want all those things in some form or fashion. Learning to observe the words that you're using, the story that you're telling yourself, that's where the leverage is. That's where the power is. It's where our power is. That's if you do that and you start telling yourself a better story about yourself, there's a process of dismantling the victim mentality. Your breath is going to unlock. Your breath is going to unlock, and you're going to breathe easier. You're going to breathe lower and slower. Parasympathetic nervous system response. And that is massively going to influence the vibe in the house. So like I said earlier, we inherit our parents' breathing patterns. It's called entrainment. And it was first noted in the 1600s in a Swiss clock shop that all of the smaller clocks would come into rhythm with the largest clock. And parents are, their children come into sync. Oh, let's make this even more simple. We've all been in a room where people say you could cut the tension with a knife, or you could hear a pin drop. What are they describing? They're describing everybody holding their breath. And that's just in a room. What if someone grows up in a household like that, where the stories are what they are and everybody's just, it formats the kids. And so one of the best things that you can do is get your breath low and slow and keep it there. And watch what happens to the vibe. Here's another example. Guy Justin, he's cool with me telling this story. Justin Estes from Garland CrossFit. He listened to me on Spencer Nix's podcast, where I told the story of the day my dad died. I pronounced him dead. And then went to work. And navigated the whole thing. And I didn't tell anybody not that I recommend doing this, or it's not that I don't recommend doing this either. It's just how I handled it. I didn't tell anybody for a week. I was on the Power Monkey podcast about 4 hours later. All hell's breaking loose. So, I work from home and it's a family farm and people are coming and the whole community went nuts and Anyway, I talk about how important it is to get your breath low and slow and keep it there when the world throws you curveballs, because they will. And this guy named Justin owns the CrossFit gym in Garland. He gets on a call with me about level 1 certification, and he goes, I'm like, hey, buddy, how's it going? And after the niceties, he goes, I just want you to know I'm signing up. And here's why. So his wife was in labor with their second child, and it was a complicated pregnancy and birth. They're in the hospital. All hell's breaking loose. The buzzers are going off. The nurses, doctors coming in and out. And he's sitting there staring at this. And his 3-year-old son is on the floor having a meltdown. And he thinks, well, I could say something, or I could just start breathing. And he said he got his breath low and slow and kept it there. And in about 2 minutes, his son calmed down, crawled up on his chest, put his head on his chest, and took a nap in the middle of madness. And he goes, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
And it is. It is. And like I said earlier, we're known as the language people. We're here to create space and clarity, and that shows up in how people breathe. And I don't care. You fill in the blank with whatever the fuck somebody's got going on. You breathe well in the middle of that, or going into that, or you're going to like yourself a whole lot better than if you go in there holding your breath. Okay. Everyone else is too. You're going to like what happens. It's the difference between surfing. I went surfing for the first time out in Hawaii, by the way. I went for 3 waves and I caught 3 waves. I was very proud of that.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was on Maui.
Nice.
Right near Lahaina. And what was I saying? Yeah, it's the difference between surfing life's waves or getting picked out of the coral. Hold your breath going, like when life does what it will do from time to time, you're going to face plant right into the sharp stuff. I've done it. People can relate.
I mean, I think since I've met you, and I think we first met at the Strong Coach Summit, and that was 2019.
It's 2019, yeah. At Imperial Beach.
And since then, the topics of breath and how powerful breath has kind of stuck with me. Kind of soft top. It has stuck with me, right? And I don't know if that is the time when I started experimenting with it. But so talking about the experience that your friend had. When I put my girls to sleep, I intentionally, like if I'm laying next to them, I intentionally will breathe low and slow. And I have found that it puts them to bed faster and more quicker. They just start to relax. Everything just starts to calm down. And then before you know it, they're out. But if I'm in my head thinking about all these different things, and like that stress is just being projected on them, I believe, But if I start breathing low and slow, it just transmits to them. It's pretty amazing,
I'm right there. Dude, I love music to my ears. Yeah, dad's calm, the world's safe.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a gift. They're going to share that with their kids, whether you explain it to them or not. Okay. What a gift. We inherit more from our parents than eye color and maybe a little money when they croak. We inherit the words that they use when they were talking to themselves, because that creates a vibe. And also the words that they used with us, that they said to us. And when we improve how we use our words, everybody wins. Everybody wins. And then that's a skill that you can teach your children. I know you will. I'm just saying, talking to your audience. And that's the keys to the kingdom. The ability to create a story where they enjoy being themselves. They're comfortable in their own skin. Good luck being comfortable in your own skin. Fill in anybody, me, you, anyone, when your breath is trapped, when chronically trapped in your chest. And again, what trapped it in the first place? That's the drum roll question. And trust me, I love me some breath work. We got a breath work coach for the community. You met him, Brandon Powell. He was down there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're doing a collab with Travis Haley, and for mindset for responsible armed citizens, first responders, military, former military. And he's bringing the heat with that. Yes, let's learn how to breathe better, and let's address, because if the story stays the same, then the breath is going to reset itself. Let's address what retarded the breath in the first place, and it will get back to the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like this is, I haven't mentioned neuroscience once because I'm not the guy to do that. It doesn't stick. It's like, yeah, that's cool as hell. And this repetitive, you could call it basic, foundational conversation under the umbrella of transformational wordsmithing, mindset. Just words and breath, words and breath. Where are the words? Let me guess they're in your head. Let's get them out. Pick up the pen. Hey, circle the soft talk. There's the definition of the victim mentality again. Let's play a language game. It's just relentless. The lowest level, and I don't mean quality. I just mean the lowest level when it comes to this conversation. That's where we reside.
Yeah.
I don't want to understand shit in this book. Bro.
I mean, just the little paragraph that you read out loud is it's enough for me where I'd be like, I don't even want to deal with this,
Dude,
it does. It overcomplicates everything.
Selective mutism. Have you ever looked at kids? They're like little monkeys. Take out the like. Someone new comes in, they're all shy and they grab the parent's leg, and yeah, that's so they don't want to talk then either. This is normal.
Yeah.
Leave them alone. Don't put a label on them, much less medicate them. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, let's dismantle the victim mentality and share that cornucopia. It's a little bit of a big word for Mark England. Cornucopia of positive effects with our children, and then the community, and the wifey and our boys. And dude, is anyone's favorite person a fucking puckered up tight ass person? No one. I've never heard that. I've never heard someone go, yeah, man, I gotta introduce you to this guy. You're gonna love him. He's super uptight. You can't say shit around him, and he's just got this really weird vibe. No one ever says that. No, it's like, oh man, I gotta introduce you to this guy. Just super cool, so down to earth. What are they talking about? They're talking about someone who breathes well, doesn't take himself too seriously, breathes well. Okay. So easy to be around, breathes well. You're going to love him, breathes well.
I like that. Now, so I guess I know a lot about like what you do and how you do it, right? If somebody wanted to improve their mindset immediately, like what 2 to 3 tools could they start using today to start making improvements on whatever, right? Like, I just want to be a good dad, right? I just want to be a good leader. I just want to be a better communicator. You know, how can somebody go from that and I guess take whatever tools that you might have and start implementing some type of practices to get them there?
Yeah, we covered the big one. The big one is soft talk. If you didn't write down those soft talk keywords, everybody, rewind the show. Do that. You'll be stunned. Slow down your rate of speech by 5%. We get hypnotized. We hypnotize ourselves. And with repetition. And most people are so used to the rate of speech, their normal rate of speech, it's really hard to pay closer attention to the words that we use when it's at that baseline normal rate of speech. And most people, when they get into the exploration, because it's an exploration of how to use their language better. And there's a lot to that, or there's a lot of different chapters, compartments to that. When I mean language, I mean internal dialogue, external dialogue, what we think, what we say, what we write, into the exploration of how to use our language better. Part of that comes down to how we inflect. Okay. And use of pause and just a whole different, it's playing the notes. And when someone slows down their rate of speech by 5%, no one's going to know. No one's going to go, hey, are you talking 5% slower than you normally do? That's not going to happen. Okay. You're going to notice it because your breath is going to loosen up, which is very important when it comes to your rhythm and your timing with your words and your inflection with your words. And you're going to, that means that the story is slowed down by 5%. Or it's going to zoom out and you're going to be able to connect dots between things. If you want to be able to pay less attention to the words that you're using, increase your rate of speech. And this is mechanical. This is mechanical. We can go experience this we can experience this phenomenon in another aspect of our life. So go run wind sprints and watch what happens. The faster you go, the more tunnel vision that you get. The faster you go, going as fast as you can or fast, tunnel vision, breath trapped in the chest. Now, same thing with the story. Story goes super fast. You've talked to, I know your background. You've talked to people in high stress environments. Okay. Mm-hmm. How easy are they to talk to?
Not easy.
Not easy. Let me guess. The words are going a mile a what? Minute? It's like talking to a what? Brick wall? Because there's a mechanical thing going on there. So the faster the story goes, it's like running wind sprints versus going out and going on a slow stroll. Go out and go on a walk about 15, 20% slower than your normal pace and watch what happens. The breath loosens up, it descends even more, and you zoom out. So speed zooms in, slowing down zooms out. It's the same thing with our words too. There's that. So soft talk, play with your rate of speech, and then work with JP.
Nice. I like that. No, that's a powerful visual that that I got from you that I use a lot in my coaching. Is that, you know, if you have your breath up high, right, trapped in your chest, it's like trying to read a book when it's like right in front of your face,
Dude.
right? That visual that you gave me is so powerful. But then when you breathe low and slow, and it's like it widens everything out, and now you can see things more clearly and better. And it's like, yeah,
Zoom in, zoom out. What there's
yeah.
levers. There's yeah, that's a it's the words, it's the rate it's the rate how fast. And if you're, we tell our coaches this all the time. Your clients aren't paying attention to the words they're using.
Mm.
So lucky them, they get to work with you because that's what we teach people to do. Paying attention to the words that they're using. Your clients aren't paying attention to how fast their story is going. They're not paying attention to their rate of speech. You are. Your clients aren't paying attention to where they're breathing. You are. And the fulcrum, Archimedes said it, give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum strong enough and I will move the world. And the lever and the fulcrum is the words on paper. You get good enough at it, you can freestyle it, you can work with people, you know. But and if I get my way, I just want words. Give me the words on the Google Doc, words on the paper. Let's get those words out of your head. I mean, that in and of itself is transformational. And then there's a bunch of stuff you can do with it once the words are written down. And all that comes down to words and breath.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I've got a question from one of my guys in my community. And you know, I threw this out there letting them know that I was going to talk to you. And I asked them, you know, any questions that I could ask you, you know, and some of them are familiar with, you know, because I've spoken about you and talked about you. So here's the question. So as a father, how do I reconcile two truths at the same time? Being incredibly proud of my daughter's resilience after heart surgery and years of wearing a scoliosis brace, not knowing what the future holds for her, while also at the same time grieving that she's had to go through so much and she's only 12, and wishing it could be different for her.
Read that again, please, JP.
Yeah. So as a father, how do I reconcile two truths at the same time? Being incredibly proud of my daughter's resilience after heart surgery and years of wearing a scoliosis brace, not knowing what the future holds for her, while also grieving that she has had to go through so much and she's only 12, and wishing it could be different for her.
I got to look up what reconcile means. I think I know what it means. Reconcile. Restore friendly relations between. Make consistent with another. First thing that comes to mind is don't reconcile them. You got that? Because they're both, like he said, they're both true.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she's come a long way. Be proud of it. And also when it's time to grieve, grieve. Because that will uncomplicate the situation. I'm assuming that part of the complication is wanting to reconcile it. I mean, am I making sense there?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that's what's creating the stress is trying to reconcile the two things that are kind of at odds with one another.
Yeah. Yeah. You got this story here. True. Cool. Awesome. You got this story over here. True. Cool. Awesome. I mean, that's how I'm going to answer that. It's a damn good question. Made me think. Maybe double check on some words too. And I am assuming, you said it in your way too, that if he does that, it'll let off some of the pressure. So I'm thinking, what's the fastest way to simplify this? Let the pressure off. Don't reconcile them. Just is what it is.
Yeah.
And what would you say to him? I mean, it's another answer.
I mean, yeah, it's like definitely be proud of, how much she's gone through and what she's done. And I guess in my mind, the way I view it is that's resilience, right? That's taught her strength in ways that most other kids have not experienced. And focus on that side of things as opposed to, I'm sorry she's had to go through this type. Because a lot of times those hard times make us, well, the times are the times, and it's how we think about those times, right? And so we can either make them hard for ourselves or, I guess, better for ourselves. Right? Which goes to, what's the story we're telling ourselves?
I like it.
Yeah.
That's that. What's the guy's name that asked that?
Todd.
Very cool, Todd. Thanks for posing the question.
Yeah. All right. So I've got just a few more things for you. Some rapid fire questions. This will be a little fun. What would you say is a phrase people should eliminate from their vocabulary immediately?
Everyone's got it. Everyone else has got it so much easier than I do.
One mindset shift that changes everything.
The definition of mindset. Mindset's the story you tell yourself. And that story is made of words and breath.
How about a book that influenced your thinking?
The Tao of Health, Sex, and Longevity by Daniel Reed.
What's a daily habit that keeps you mentally sharp?
Thinking about my thinking.
If every man listening adopted one belief, what should it be?
That your words are powerfully influencing you for better and for worse. And you've got a choice in that.
Awesome. Man, this has been great. I mean, every time I talk to you, every time I listen to you speak, I feel like I'm learning. And I want to be as good as that, or I'm working to be as good as what you do. When I see you work with people and the kind of transformations that you make, and even just the kind of experiences that I have speaking with you are pretty incredible. So I just want to say thanks for taking time out of your day to jump on the podcast and get out here. And for all the guys listening, pay attention to what you say to yourself, because the language you use becomes the identity that you live into, right? And Mark, where can more people learn about your work and Enlifted Coaching?
2 places. Enlifted.me. That's our website. It's got all the intel on the certs and some very cool free trainings. So 1 free training. And then Instagram at Enlifted Coaches. That's a that's a free language school. So we put out just bite-sized, easy to understand content about this one thing. If you follow me, I do it once or twice a month. I send all my new followers a voicemail. Say, hey, so-and-so, thanks for the follow. We appreciate it. And I mean that. How'd you get here? How'd you find out about us? And then, it depends. And then, maybe send them a podcast to listen to, or send them the soft talk challenge or something like that. So yeah, I run the account and I have fun with it.
Oh, nice.
That's that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I guess if there's just one question I'm going to end it with is, if a man that's listening to this feels stuck right now, what's the first thing they should change tomorrow morning?
I wish I had an answer, a one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on how they're stuck. Depends on how they're keeping themselves stuck. Part of me wanted to say go on a walk. Part of me wanted to say call a friend. Part of me wanted to say pick up that heavy-ass pen and write out the stories. Part of me wanted to say go enroll in a jiu-jitsu school. Part of me wanted to say call your mom. It's like it depends.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Mark, thank you for being on the show. I'm excited. Yeah, I can't wait to get this out to everybody. And because I feel like this has been a very powerful and helpful episode for my community. Most of my podcasts are me solo, and occasionally I do interviews. And so I'm excited for this and very pumped to have you on the show. So thank you.
My pleasure, JP. Thanks for listening, everybody. Abracadabra.
Thank you for listening to the Highly Effective Man podcast. If you enjoyed or learned something on this episode, do me a favor and share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. And one last thing, if you want to work with me as your coach to help you get fit, be more productive, and in general, just be the most effective version of yourself, head over to my site, higherlevelcoaching.co. Once again, that's higherlevelcoaching.co, and schedule a call with me there. Thank you again. Let's go.